Tahun 2020 adalah tahun yang sangat sulit untuk kita. Kita harus beradaptasi dan mengubah cara kita, tetapi kita bisa bertahan karena kita percaya setelah hujan ada pelangi. Hanya waktu yang bisa mengatakan, tetapi kita bisa berharap.
Our story begins here. It's not just our story, but a story shared by many in 2020. A story of struggle and changes for all of us, but also of hope, of friendship, and of the ocean. A story where people and nature come together to reshape their lives and their future. I am Siladen, a Caribbean French dive instructor who arrived in Indonesia in 2020 with my Dutch fiancé, Niels. We came to start a new job as dive center managers of a dive resort in North Sulawesi. Here we met Teddy, our co-manager, who shares our passion for the ocean and our love for diving.
Saya sangat menikmati pekerjaan saya karena pekerjaan saya bisa bertemu dengan begitu banyak orang yang berasal dari negara lain, dan juga kita boleh berbagi informasi, cerita, dan saya boleh memperlihatkan keindahan bawah laut yang ada di daerah kita.
Teddy and all the resort staff welcomed us in March 2020. Bad timing? Yeah, maybe. Soon after our arrival, borders closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and our world turned upside down when the lost guests left. We found ourselves lost in paradise in the middle of the confusion. But we were not alone. Indonesia opened domestic travel in August 2020. Since then, we took the opportunity to explore and dive this amazing country. We realized that COVID-19 not only affected the way we travel now, but as well the tourism and the diving industry in a way that we would never imagine. Since Indonesia is a nation of 17,000 islands, COVID-19 is a story shared by many, on land and at sea. We had the chance to explore Raja Ampat, Komodo, alors, Flores, and North Sulawesi. Raja Ampat, the last paradise. It is one of the top worldwide diving destinations. There, we had the chance to meet Max Hammer, the pioneer of diving in Raja Ampat. This modern visionary and conservationist opened Raja Ampat to tourism 30 years ago.
Now, I came to Raja Ampat for other reasons than what I do now, but I kind of fell in love with the people. So I love nature, but I think people are the number one and nature is the number two. And I was just thinking, what could I possibly do to work with the local people to help their way of life, to improve it? I think what I saw was a little bit that they were a little bit like almost second-class citizens in their own country. And they had certain ambitions to get out of that, but I thought their ambitions were not the right direction. I believe not in violence or anything like that. I believe in smartness. So I said, organize yourself, do something positive. And tourism was kind of natural because you are in the middle of very beautiful nature with all the stuff around you, so you think. Probably other people like this too. But of course, I had no idea how good this was compared with other places because I've never been active in the dive industry. I didn't know, is this good or not good? I thought it's probably okay, but what do I know? I mean, logic, when you look at the globe, we're on the equator. So there's where most of the corals grow, close to the equator, so that's logic. And then we are in the biggest number of islands on the equator. That's another very important factor. So those two things make it already logic that it's probably pretty good. And not too many people, that's another very important ingredient. And if you want to see nature, search where there's not so many people, then there's automatically more nature. So I kind of figured out that we had the right ingredients, but I really I choose for the diving industry because it just seems like one of the very few potential options. So it was not per se I had to dive, but I just thought this is a way to go, and it's environmentally friendly. We try to protect the nature, so it all fits together. And that's what we started, and 30 years later we're still on it.
To reach Raja Ampat, we needed to stop in Sorong, an industrial town of West Papua. Thanks to Michael Mobalen, a guide for 15 years, we had an unexpected experience in this underrated area.
Nama saya Michael Mobalen. Saya adalah seorang pegawai negeri sipil, tapi pekerjaan saya yang sampingannya adalah seorang guide. Hari-hari saya bekerja sebagai pegawai negeri, tapi juga sebagai seorang guide jika ada bookingan untuk mengantar turis. Saya punya momen yang sangat saya suka ialah menjadi seorang guide waktu bermalam di hutan. Itu yang pertama. Yang kedua, saya juga suka menjadi guide saat membawa tamu yang usianya lebih tua. Yang ketiga, saya suka menjadi guide karena saya mau sekali mempromosi daerah saya menjadi daerah destinasi. Pertama kali sudah di booking untuk menjadi guide waktu sebelum coronavirus bulan Maret. Saya sudah siap-siap senang untuk mau antar tamu, tapi tiba-tiba coronavirus datang di Indonesia, di Papua dan di Sorong secara khusus, akhirnya membuat saya tidak bahagia dan tidak senang dan semua hilang dan batal tiba-tiba.
Michael was not the only one shocked by the news. Everywhere, It dropped like a bomb. On Cree Island, we met Chris, the manager of Papua Diving. He was at the front line.
I was in Bali when I started to realize that Indonesia was looking like they were going to close borders. And I was doing the final preparations for my wedding at the time, so I had left Raja Ampat. At that time, it became quite easy to see that Indonesia was going to start to close borders. This was about mid-March, so we knew about end of March it was going to happen. So I made plans to return to Raja Ampat and to assist the resort in trying to get the guests back to their home countries and assisting them in their flights. And obviously, it was quite a shock for myself, the resort, the local people, and the rest of the world that everything happened so fast. But all in all, we're very grateful that the guests were all able to return to their homes and that we were all able to be secure in where we were. My life before Corona was what I'd like to imagine many dive industry staff's life is. Waking up early in the morning, checking our staff have the boats ready, checking that the restaurant staff are ready for breakfast with the guests, checking that the guests are okay when they wake up, making sure that they had a good night's sleep, getting everyone ready for breakfast, checking that everyone is ready for their dives, that all the boats are ready on time, and that everything happens smoothly as far as the staff go, and as well as checking the guests are okay, check that all the staff are okay. And once divers have gone out, then making sure that housekeeping and the rest of the departments are able to do their jobs. If I need to dive, then I dive with the guests and making sure they come back. Pretty much overall, just making sure everything happens smoothly throughout the day. We offer the 3-day dive, so making sure that the guests have good dives overall, that there's no accidents or emergencies, that they're happy with everything. If they're not, then we can assist with that as best we can to make the overall experience the best experience they can have while they're here on holiday. Obviously, we kept a lot less staff on the island. We unfortunately, like many industries, had to reduce the overall staff that we have. It's very sad, but not just our industry, many industries and a lot of people. So no, it's not a tough thing to do, but having less people on the island meant having to change how we were together with not having guests, changing, being more careful with how we're spending money and using electricity, using fuel, and everything you kind of have to be more aware of. So we tried to do a lot of things to reduce the cost, and at the same time what we found out was it definitely helped make us think a little bit in terms of having a greener mentality where we didn't, as far as having things like more solar panels and how we use food, perhaps doing more gardening. And we realized that in the past that we'd perhaps spent money where we didn't have to.
Waktu kita dengar mau tutup Siladen Resort Spa, tidak ada tamu lagi yang bisa datang, saya berpikir untuk menanam banyak tumbuhan untuk kita punya makanan seperti ubi, pisang, ubi jalar, banyak tanaman yang boleh kita manfaatkan karena kita tidak menghasilkan uang seperti sebelumnya. Untuk saya itu sangat-sangat sulit karena saya mempunyai keluarga, mempunyai 3 anak yang masih kecil. Saya melakukan banyak hal. Selain menanam, saya juga pergi bekerja sebagai security di Siladen Resort Spa.
There's not so much we can do, but we do try to do things. For instance, when it started, a lot of people had no more access to money, and of course they do need some access to money for pay for the school fees and some other things they need. So what we did, we actually were. I don't like fishing at all, but we were actually buying fish from villagers and selling it in Sorong, so they actually get some cash. And we were very busy with it. It was a pain. It was just going back and forth with boats. Like the catamaran, we didn't use it for diving yet. We already have more than 1,000 hours of going around buying fish. Yeah, but at least we could help them a little bit.
Untuk saya tahun 2020, hal yang paling sulit yaitu penghasilan saya tidak cukup untuk membeli susu untuk anak saya. Saya ada support dari beberapa saudara dan juga dari pihak owner. Jadi di Pulau Siladen ada begitu banyak orang yang kerja di beberapa resort. Dan waktu semua resort tutup, orang-orang mereka beralih profesi. Ada yang pergi memancing, ada yang jadi petani, ada yang kerja jadi buruh bangunan. Dan itu sangatlah sulit untuk masyarakat di Pulau Siladen. Karena sebelumnya kita mempunyai penghasilan yang sangat cukup, tapi sekarang kita mempunyai penghasilan yang sangat minim dari biasanya.
It's incredible the things that we take for granted, the everyday things. I found it was nothing special that I missed, but rather stuff that's around you all the time. Basic hot water and constant, almost what seems like an unlimited or unhindered amounts of electricity. These small things we very easily take for granted because you don't notice them and they're there all the time. And then just not having a hot shower anymore or not having full electricity working and have to being a bit more aware. These are things on an island that you really start to miss.
So, jadi saya merindukan untuk melakukan aktivitas saya seperti biasanya, yaitu kembali untuk menyelam, bisa berkumpul dengan teman-teman di tempat kerja, dan juga bisa bertemu dengan orang-orang yang berasal dari tempat lain, dari negara lain.
I think myself, my wife, like many people in the world, we all had plans this year that unfortunately had to change. But I don't think I think this virus has made people a lot more grateful, and I think it's made people a lot more accepting. But I don't think it's changed who we are. We all have plans, and I will always be a diver. That's what I will always do, and that's what I've always done. And I don't think anything in the world will ever stop me from doing that. I think if all the resorts in the world or all dive centers had to close down, I would probably still find some way to make this my livelihood. It's what I'm passionate about. It's what I enjoy. Being underwater, I'm more comfortable than I am on land. So I would guess I would always find a way.
find a way and keep up diving. For many divers around the world, professional or not, diving was a way to stay sane, a goal, a reward. And some were just a bit luckier than others. We are not the only lucky travelers enjoying a tourist-free Indonesia. Will and Stephanie, a teacher and an engineer from Sweden, started their sabbatical in July 2019. They got stranded in Indonesia during the lockdown. Lucky for them, the Indonesian government allowed foreign visitors to extend their visa.
We were among the last flights. We were in Bali in an apartment we had just rented. And yeah, we basically heard that now there is a lockdown, there is no more flights. And yeah, we were just thinking that we were super lucky to actually have arrived. That was the plan since a few weeks. So yeah.
August was like for us the starting point of starting to travel within the borders of Indonesia. So we started out in Lombok, did some diving and some exploration in South Lombok. And then we, at the time we were in Lombok, we saw this great offer in diving in Bangka. We'd never been to Bangka, but yeah, the offer was so great, and we ended up at KLM Sunshine with Anke in Bangka, and it was really great.
And after that, typically to COVID, I would say we had plans to go to Panda Sea, but had to change last minute because rules change all the time. We needed to do PCR tests, there were no ferries, blah blah blah. So last minute we rescheduled and flew to Labambajo in Flores because we wanted to redo Komodo, where we've also been before. Because we met friends who said like, if there's any time to go again to Komodo, it's now.
Indeed, diving the National Park of Komodo during the COVID-19 time was once in a lifetime experience. Being on one of the only liveaboard operating at that time, we enjoyed the healthy reefs, full of life, with no other divers around. The Komodo dragon seemed unaware of the pandemic that affects the daily life of their guardians. At the viewpoint of Padar Island, the local guides, who witnessed up to 1,000 visitors a day before the pandemic, were surprised to see us after 9 months of lockdown.
At that point, we've been diving quite a lot and felt like we needed a dive break. So we decided to rent a motorbike in Labuan Bajo and cross with that one till Maumere. So that we did for almost 2 weeks. It was an amazing experience. It was also nice to meet the local people in Flores and hear their stories about the last couple of months.
Like Will and Stephanie, we went east, crossed Flores, and arrived in Alor. Everywhere, our presence triggered surprise and questions.
First of all, everyone is really, really happy to receive guests. My feeling is that that's a sign for them that things starting to open up, and sometimes it feels like we bring hope.
I guess it was a bit awkward for the locals to see these strangers wearing masks and permanently using hand sanitizers. I remember this young boy in Bajawa who ran from us, yelling "Corona, Corona" when he saw our mask. And yet, people opened their heart and their homes to welcome us. The best they could. Since there are few travelers diving around Indonesia, we met Will and Stephanie again in North Sulawesi. Together, we visited the National Park of Tangkoko. Here, the population of the endemic black-crested macaque seems to have thrived without the constant presence of their human visitors.
I think we have a very good idea about what is really the main issues. I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding about the main issues. For instance, my best understanding is coastal development, or like destroying the nature and have runoff. That is one of the big problems. Of course, when you have no money, people don't develop much, so that's actually positive then for the nature. And another problem is nutrition runoff from septic systems. When there are not many guests, then of course there's less runoff that way, so that's also positive. So in general, I think it's a lot of positive, although some people start poaching sharks again, which was totally not happening. So I think the shark population did get some damage. I think there were a few people start bomb fishing again. That was already also something from the past. So because we had it quite well under control here, and it's not too bad, but it's definitely less than before. And so tourism to a certain extent can make that go good again. You know, when there's some tourism, there's some money, the patrolling will be more, people will be around the reef more, so it's not empty. When it's empty, there's no one diving. Who's going to check it? While you're diving, you see things happening and you're going to take action. I mean, anyone that operates a dive resort won't let anyone destroy the reef. You will immediately take action. So yeah, in that regard, but in general, I think it's positive over negative for the nature. Yeah.
I don't miss the over-tourism. I believe that at one point, perhaps Rajamp had become over. We started to steer towards mass tourism without it being regulated more carefully. And I think that perhaps the virus has been good in bringing less people, but on the other side of that, having less eyes on the reef has created an opportunity for fishermen to come in at night. So it's a catch-22.
Jadi waktu tahun lalu adanya coronavirus, kegiatan diving, snorkeling sangatlah berkurang. Jadi waktu saya pergi snorkeling, saya lihat ada begitu banyak perubahan, seperti adanya banyak ikan yang bisa dilihat di atas karang-karang, dan ada karang yang bertumbuh dengan baik karena waktu adanya kegiatan diving atau snorkeling sangat banyak. Ada yang tidak sengaja merusak karang, jadi karangnya patah, tapi sekarang ada perubahan yang sangat baik untuk ekosistem di bawah laut.
I see that the crisis have an impact on the marine life, because the ocean and the marine life, and actually also nature, was breathing again. They had the same break like we had. Less divers on the spot, less fast boats on the reefs. We are starting diving now since a couple of months, not so often of course, but we starting diving now, and we see it's much more fish, it's much more corals. The reefs are much more healthy. And to be honest, we even have a whale shark coming into our bay, hanging around here and going out again after a couple of hours. That never happened before. So it looks like even the whale shark feel very safe coming in a dive resort area, because nobody will disturb him. Or some mating dugongs just in front of our beach, because there are not 20 guests running after mating dugongs, because they had time to mating and nobody disturbing them. On the other hand, of course, fishermen went out more often, and because of there were no dive boats anymore, they feel the freedom, they can go fishing more. Luckily, we are here so close together with the village and with the other dive resorts in this community, that also when other dive boats are going out, or other boats are going out, and they see illegal fishing on our reefs, they will inform us, and then we can still going, checking them and calling the officials to help us to get that under control. And even our village Lihuno already understand that that is a chance and that is a treasure outside here in front of our door, and they have to help us to keep it a treasure, because when Corona is finished, the divers coming back, and the village will profit also from the small tourism what we have here in Bangka.
This is Anke, a German lady who is one of the pioneers of diving around Bangka Island. She owns a liveaboard and a dive resort for 17 years. Unlike others, she kept her operation running during the pandemic month.
How we make us survive until now in this very difficult, challenging year? Yeah, it's actually a good question. I have no idea how we have done that. Again, I think creativity, flexibility, and just two things what we maybe would not have done before. We try to open our resort also for local business. We try to operate that as low cost as possible, because of course the local domestic don't want to pay the normal price here. We try to attract expats which are still in Indonesia. We try to open special trips with our sunshine. We were able to combine attracting the people which actually want to go on a liveaboard, but also for us still workable, manageable, and also payable, operatable. So that needed a lot of flexibility, and also I'm happy we were able to attract people coming to us, and I'm also very happy that these guests and these divers actually recommended us then again all over Indonesia, because at the moment people are traveling. And then I got another one, and then I got another one. And we were just happy for every single person came to us in 2020.
But yeah, there have been operators who have been dealing with COVID very well in terms of making sure to keep everything running as early as possible. I guess everyone at some point had to do a lockdown for a few months, but some operators have been doing really well, even without customers, making sure that they know how things are going in normal times, so that everything is just running smoothly.
At the beginning, to be honest, all of us, I think, thought it's nothing. It's a virus. That will come, that will go very fast. Yeah, we did not thinking ever that will affect us such a long time. So at the beginning, we were shocked, but not really worried. Huh? All of them thinking, yeah, come on, couple of months, and then we go ahead again, give us a short break. It's maybe even good for everyone, so let's do that. But then actually the worries came, because it's not ended, and it's become longer and longer and longer, and it's still going on. So now it's scary. It was scary. Now it's hopefully.
Some said that 2020 and now 2021 were disastrous years. But were they? Wandering around Indonesia, we met people who have been struggling a lot, but are resilient. They learned how to cope with the virus, and they adapted.
Crisis can be also chances. And I try to use this crisis as a chance for me, for my company, and also for my private life, my friends, my customer, actually all my life. This is a chance to change that a little bit, to make it just better than before. Crises are chances.
2020 for me has, strange as it might sound, been a great year, like one of probably my best years ever. I know this is always a bit hard to say because a lot of people have been struggling this year, but for us, we happened to just end up in the right country with the right interest for this country and the right time in life where we can actually, we have time, we have a lot of time, and we have saved up money to just stay here and deal with the situation and be happy with continuing here and just, for example, diving a lot. And so yeah, we're just incredibly lucky, I think. For us, it's been a very good year.
Jadi waktu coronavirus jadi di tahun yang lalu, saya mempunyai banyak pengalaman yang baik, yaitu saya mempunyai banyak waktu dengan keluarga, terutama dengan istri dan anak-anak. Karena waktu saya bekerja seperti biasanya, terlalu banyak kesibukan sehingga saya tidak mempunyai banyak waktu dengan keluarga. Tapi waktu adanya corona, saya mempunyai sangat-sangat banyak waktu dengan mereka.
Maybe what it would change is perhaps how we look at our jobs in the dive industry or tourism industry in terms of only relying on those jobs, that they would always be a sure thing, and perhaps looking at other forms of passive income to build on top of our salaries. Things like being more aware of other options you have, such as trading in the stock market or buying land and renting it out, and trying to be a bit more aware of how fragile everything can be, not just for our industry, as I've said, but also other industries. And I think a lot of people in the world have looked at alternate sources of income instead of relying just on one.
I have hope now because I filled my energy, I filled my Akis. All my batteries are full. All my brain again is full of creativity. My power is back. Can you imagine you are running a resort 15 years? Day after day, the same. You take all the best for your customer. You never have one day off. There is not one day holiday. Now, this year was actually a break. Financially a disaster, emotionally a wonder. And then I can fill my batteries, and now I'm full of hope because of course the borders will open again. And not only me, all of us, I think, are full of new ideas, projects, things we can do better, things we can make more intense. We are not only running the day same, because now we have just a brighter view. And we are just waiting, the doors are open, and then we are ready to start. So that's make me hopefully.
It is a sweet and sour time for all of us. At the dawn of 2021, prayers full of hope were going out.
My wish for 2021 is actually, and not only for 2021, also for all the years after this, I want to take a little bit of this experience, what I learned in 2020, I want to take it with me. I don't want to come again in this super busy mode where I don't care about myself, or I always only from the morning until the evening working. I would like to take things a little bit more slow and to enjoy a little bit more what we have, what Indonesia has to give to us, not only underwater, also above water. A little bit more traveling, a little bit more private time for me, and a little bit more slow.
Look, my wish is for everyone to be not affected in any negative way. So my hope, of course, is that either we find a way to protect ourselves against this, or we find a way to live it. But of course, my main thing is I don't want anyone to be hurt, so I really hope there's a solution for that, because it's horrible if people get hurt in any way. It's just not a great thing. So that's my hope, that people can live without fear and healthy. That's the most important thing.
For me, even though it's been a great year personally, I've still been longing for the day when the world starts opening up, and I still do. So I really do hope, like in the coming month, that slowly the world will start opening up. And it's been heartbreaking to meet some people that's really struggling. So for the majority of the people on the earth, they need an income, they need tourism to start opening up again.
Untuk tahun 2021, saya mau melihat ada perubahan yang besar, khususnya perubahan terkait dengan dunia pariwisata. Karena dunia pariwisata sangat menguntungkan bagi kami, khususnya kami guys.
I think as long as, however it may be, whether it's through tourism or any way, as long as there's a way for people to start earning incomes again, I think is the most important thing. For people to survive, families to survive, children to survive, and for people not to have the hardships. And whatever it means for myself or for other people, as long as we can find a way to do that, not just us here at the resort or me or Max or you, but just humanity as a whole, to work together to try to get through this. I think that's all we could really ask for, is for the safety of the disadvantaged in this situation.
Saya berharap tahun ini kita bisa melakukan hal yang biasanya, seperti semua resort bisa dibuka kembali dan kita bisa melakukan pekerjaan seperti biasanya dan mempunyai penghasilan yang normal.
My hope today is that all those prayers will be heard.